everyone, this is Handmark, your girl on the Total Woman podcast. You're welcome to today's edition. Hope you had a lovely time, hope you rested, and above all, it's nice meeting you. Even though I'm not seeing you, I think it's nice hearing from you. I hope you're giving us your feedback on our social media platforms and all that. Looking forward to hear more from you. Yes, you're welcome. So last time we talked about the age gap of 9 to 14. We want to continue now from age 15 to 19. And I think I would like to start today on a different note, which is taking us back to hygiene. And why am I talking about hygiene? The older you get, the more important hygiene becomes. Boy, girl, regardless, it's very important. Hygiene, because your exposure now is not just limited to your age bracket, but guess what? As a girl from age 13, 14, 15, you tend to attract sometimes men from ages 27, 28, 29. Literally, it depends on how matured you look. Before I go further, something happened to my friend on Valentine's Day last year. He works in a different state and came to Jos for something, and so went to an eatery to eat. And so he saw this girl who was standing in front of the eatery and said hi, and he really liked her. She was chubby, she was looking good, and she was wearing a short gown, and he was talking to her. What's your name? She said her name, and she was very receptive and very respectful. And he was like, this girl is very nice, so she could actually work. And he was talking to her, and at least my friend I'm talking about is actually in his 40s. So he got talking to her and he said, what's your name? She gave the name, and let's use Simi. She said she's Simi, and they got talking with Simi over time, and then he got to the point where he said, can I have your phone number? She said, sorry, she doesn't have a phone. She didn't bring a phone here. She doesn't have a phone to give him. So he said, can I see you later? I think the part that shocked him was when she said, excuse me, please. And she started running. He said, where are you going? She said, I want to ask my mom if we're coming here tomorrow. So he called her back and said, come, where are you schooling? And she said she just came back for midterm. She's in GS3. And he realized he was literally talking to a 14-year-old. And he was in his 40s. Child abuse. I think he called me that day and said, in fact, he's so done. Nowadays, you don't even know who is young and who is old again. And you see, so sometimes some of these girls are actually quite developed. So you don't even know. My point being that then it's no longer the peer group, the age brackets that they get to meet again. So the concept of hygiene should never be played down, but is overemphasized as they grow older. So by that time, you expect that it's now more ingrained. Things like taking time to clean their armpits, pits for short, cleaning their armpits, shaving, and just making sure that you're not too drenched with sweat that you begin to stink, because over time, as you get older, you sweat more. The hormones, the raging of hormones gets you to sweat much more than you expect. Because of all of that, you need to be more careful about it. You meet women who tell you that they don't believe in shaving their armpits. If you don't believe in shaving your armpits, I'm not sure why you shouldn't believe in shaving your armpits. But if you don't believe in it, maybe there are ways that you can actually walk around it. Reduce it. It doesn't have to be all gone, but reduce it. But I hear that popular opinion is actually just shave it. But then there are ladies who actually have irritations. I personally have serious irritations. So because of that, I've had to take time to research to find what works for me. Shaving sticks leave you with bumps and boils and everywhere, and you can't work with that. And guess what? There are creams. We have shaving creams. There are those that are for sensitive skins. There are those that are normal. Explore so that you know what works for you. And it wouldn't hurt to just try. And if it hurts today, drop it and try another thing. And just don't stop trying. Don't stop trying. Just keep trying until you find what works for you. Because the alternative will be leaving yourself dirty. Or the alternative will be leaving your armpit actually dirty. I think you see, when you go somewhere, you're talking to a lady and you're very excited about talking to her, and then she just talks and raises her hands up, and then those people that live there, the smell, the brown colored hair, and it doesn't tell well. Again, your exposure is now different. You're exposed to far more than was just limited to your age group, your peer group, your secondary school and all that. You're beginning to grow, and some of us at that age, I think I was already in university before 19. which meant that it's far bigger than that. You're meeting lecturers that are asking you out. You're meeting boys that are asking you out, non-academic staff that are asking you out. On your way to school, they're asking you out and all that. But that's another story for another day. But then guess what? The pubes too needs to be cleaned up. Your hair, manage it. All get something. All on awesomeness. Make it awesome. Not for anything. You find people saying that a girl is beautiful, nice, and when she stands up or opens her legs for anything while you're having a discussion, fumes that come out, it's not very encouraging. And that's also for the guys, Guys don't usually feel the need to clean up because they feel they're guys. It wouldn't hurt too, because guess what? The girls you're going to meet are also human beings, and it wouldn't hurt to actually look awesome and sweep her off her feet. Yeah, I think that's all I'll have to say concerning the issue of hygiene. Yes, so clean the pubes, clean your armpits, and get to work. Then we have ways of actually making sure you smell good. Ways you smell good. I heard that there are churches who don't believe in roll-ons, churches who don't believe in body sprays, I don't know, maybe you use camphor on your clothes and you keep it in the drawer with camphor and sometimes, but it wouldn't hurt to actually roll on body spray. There are things that are mild, that don't have to be over the top. Smell flowers now. You just smell like flowers. Cool. You remember those days where we have fantasy, body signature. Just small thing. Lovelier that you just get to put on your body and it helps you smell better, and then you're not offensive, because if you're offensive in the workspace, it's not healthy. In the church, it's not healthy. Why should you be the problem of everybody in the church? Seriously. Why should your daughter be what should stand out in teens class? Because she stinks. I don't know. I don't want to make it too much about religion, but I think if you are from that school of thought, it wouldn't hurt to explore other options. How then do you manage sweat? Does she get to change clothes always so that the sweat doesn't smell, or whatever makes it work? But then it should be that it's not very hygienic. So find a way to make it work. And for the mother who is open-minded, I will always recommend that for my girls at home too. I do that for my girls at home. It's very recommended. Buy body spray and roll on. Just something mild, not over the top where they suddenly feel like they've arrived, but mild that helps them looking fresh and young, acting their age, but not stinking up the place. And that, I think that ushers them into womanhood in a very good way, where they feel confident about themselves. They're not too self-conscious about the fact that they're sweating, so they might actually be smelling somewhere, or that someone is looking at them some way, or they are not too confident to stand in front of people to talk because they feel uncomfortable because they've been sweating all morning. There's always something to do. There's always something to manage it. And I would advise parents to also look into that. While we have strong religious beliefs and biases, we should look into the fact that we need to function in a society. We need to function in a community. And those people also have rights to not smell bad things. So we should consider that too, and actually think through that and find ways to make it work. I'll be back shortly. Have you ever wondered what it really means to be a woman? Are you interested in gaining a fresh perspective and a deeper understanding of womanhood? Look no further than the Total Woman podcast. Join us as we explore the complexities, the beauty of being a woman, while also introducing the male perspective to our experiences. No gender advocacy, just a balanced approach that acknowledges and celebrates the unique differences between men and women. We'll delve into the why behind our thoughts, emotions, experiences, while striving for a better understanding and relationship between genders. My personal experiences as an African woman will add a unique flavor to our discussions, bringing new insights to the table while leaving you enlightened and empowered. Join us as we introduce the world to the woman. Tune in to the Total Woman podcast today. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So we're going to handle the subtopic of boy meets girl, girl meets boy, boy likes girl, girl likes boy. You know that? Yes. And as I'm saying it now, you just remember, it takes you back memory lane. You get to remember the first time you met that boy, that first boyfriend, the first time you were asked out. we moved to a new area that time, and we were living somewhere else. We had to move, and on arrival, I think I was 12, and some guy in the area. When I look back, I actually wondered what was exciting me, but some guy in the area wanted to ask me out, and I remember asking, what time do you want to ask me out so that I'll prepare? And he told me the time that I'll meet. So he went, and he was so high on weed, and came and started speaking to me. And when he finished, I think I was just excited about him asking me out. I was so impatient. I wanted to see what it feels like to be asked out as a girl. And I waited, and I was listening, and I was just smiling and laughing, and I was just turning. You know, that way you turn and you stand this way, you turn again, you stand, and then you bring down your head, and you know, all those initial gra now. All those things you put together and do that and all that. After he finished, I knew I was never going to date him. I knew I was going to have nothing to do with him. The excitement was more for him asking me out, so that our experience, my first experience of being asked out, I was like 12. That was my first experience. So that was what I was excited about. On his own part, he felt I liked him so much that I couldn't wait for him to talk to me. No, I wanted to have the first experience over and done with. And I was very excited about it. So when he finished, I was glad to be able to tell him no and walk away. But I think nobody really had peace in my house that day, because I couldn't wait telling them, this is what he said. He said, I am fine. He said he wants to do this. He said he wants to do that. He wants me to be his and all that. And got laughing, and we got talking, and it's like it became a moonlight story in my house. We sat down and we were discussing it, and by that I mean my dad was present. I'm not sure my mom was there, but I remember my dad clearly was present. And I think, in fact, when I look back now, I would love to appreciate my dad for being an awesome father. Yes, he was very present. He was very much there. And if you listen to our previous podcast, it talked about some books, Introduction to Puberty and all that he took us through at the age of 9, 10, and 11 that had already covered that. So we're expecting it. We didn't know when it was going to come. So when it came, it's like, what you said was really true. And like you said, Daddy, this is what happened. And like you said, Daddy, this is what happened and all that. And I just bless God for that relationship, the ability to actually talk to somebody. And guess what? It was my dad, which meant he could correct, he could channel, he could control it, and all of that. And the first person I could share it with was also him. So while he was talking about that, he got time to tell us about the fact that anybody who wants to be your friend, friendship comes naturally. But if you have to ask for friendship, then it's much more than friendship. Friendship should be natural, because you tend to gravitate towards your likes, your wants, and your dislikes. You gravitate towards those issues. But if he has to ask you to be his friend, then he's looking for much more. And that was what he kept on drumming in our ears. So by the time I got to GS3, I remember the first letter. And it was somewhere further than my house. I went to buy bread for breakfast. And I was walking down the street, and they sent me the letter and said, he said I should give you a letter. And he was like, that's my first letter. Boy meets girl, boy likes girl, boy sending girl letter. And I was so excited. You know, I started running from where I was, because I was waiting. I remember he was at home. So I was waiting, running to come home. So I'll come and read the letter and tell him that it has finally happened. He said people are going to send us letters, and it has already started happening. You should come, let's read the letter together. And you will think he was as excited. He acted that same excitement that was my body. And we read it, and we were laughing together. I was like, this boy thinks highly of himself. Does he deserve his daughter? I said, don't mind him. He thinks me and him are going to follow him so that he will help destroy who. That was in JS3. I was like, They just want to. He thinks he can confuse you. And I said, don't mind him. Who is he? Where will he start from? This secondary school that he doesn't want me to finish, I must finish. Who wants to come and be pregnant in secondary school? God forbid, Batsy. And he said, that's my girl. And we got talking, and we're rejected. It was my cousin and I. He was there. We were just discussing. It was open. There was no secret to. I hid my letter somewhere. And when I look back, I'm grateful for the common ground he was able to create for us to be able to have those kind of conversations. So as I speak like this, I would really like that you tell us your first experience, your first letter. That's if you're an 80s girl like me, your first letter. And I think letters phased out very quickly after that. Your letter, those letters that I'm writing, penning down with love from my heart, from the altar of love. to, those crazy things that used to be written. I have forgotten. I'm so surprised I've actually forgotten the thing. We used to write a lot of these things. When you go and you have pen pal in secondary school, then those paper, those designed papers that what do you call it? Notepad letters that designed with different colors, the blue ones, the pink ones, those with those love signs, those hearts, little hearts, different colors. You get to write it and design it, and then you have your own signature picture that you get to draw it at the end to signify, this is me, the love of your life. And I went to GHS then. At SS1, I was a day student, GS1 to GS3, then I had to go to GHS Kindry. Yes, I'm a GOSA. So I finished from GHS. So you come to the dining, and then we eat lunch at about 2, and then you come there, and then you know how you feel so proud because they come and say, letters have arrived. They will open it, they start calling everybody, and when they call your name, that you have a letter, and naturally it's from a boy. So you see, so if let's say Yales was my boyfriend then, so they will call, when immediately they call Hammock, so everybody will start Yales. They will start hyping you, and you will see the walk will change, man. You're walking there, you feel as if you have arrived. You've got a letter. So naturally, they will give you some time to read it alone. Then everybody in your room who heard that a letter arrived will now come and sit down for you to read it. So people who have the privilege of holding that letter to read are those your close confidants, those people that you consider. So that first 3 days after the letter is about giving your best friend. I got a letter. You can read it and pass it to me, so that I'll put it in my locker. So when you read and finish, I say, here's the letter. They say, whose letter is this? It belongs to Hammock, who is from Yales. Oh, sorry, I can't give you. She gave me, so I have to return it to her. If you want to read it, she will have to give you permission to read it first. So even the person that is returning the letter to is feeling very important that he had privilege to read the letter from Hammock's boyfriend. Lord have mercy. That was a lot of work. And when I look back, it's a lot. But then it was something that made you feel very important. But like I said, get in contact with us so that we'll know how it was with you and what happened at that time, and how much confidence you had in yourself, and what was your response and your reaction. Did you have somebody to guide you through that process, or were you standing alone, or did you have friends? Sometimes we're lucky with good friends. I think I was just lucky with my dad, and he was my very best friend. So, but I don't know about you. Whatever it is, get in touch, contact with us in our social media handles at the Total Woman Podcast, Facebook and on Instagram. We'll wait to hear from you and your stories. We would love to share them with the world. Going back to what I was saying, that's secondary school. Then you get to graduate, and the exposure keeps going bigger and bigger. So we transition from letters to phone. Yeah, I remember those 3310s to those 2700 to Bird. Oh, God have mercy. Bird. Did you have that phone? Bird. This Bird flip phone. Flip phone. It was a Bird. I used a Bird phone. Flip phone. Those Sony Ericsson phones before that used to have rope, and you, even if they don't know that you have phone, you just be swinging the rope. Now the way people do with cars now, so that everybody know that they have a car. You be swinging the rope so that people will know that you have a phone and you're communicating. And then so when he calls and you hear people saving names like my love, and so this guy that saved my name as his air. You know that song that No Air by Chris Brown. So he felt so in love with me that he needed to save my number with his air. So I was calling him for something, and I saw my air, and I was wondering, so now if I die, this guy is going to die. When you reminisce now, you look at all those follies that he had, but guess what? It made childhood fun. So my question is that, who is guiding your daughter? Are you the one guiding your daughter? Because there's always somebody who is guiding her through that, who is ushering her into becoming a woman, and how to either fan the flames of the attention or just see it as normal part of being and existing as a lady, or guess what, get carried away with the attention. At some point, there were lots of people who were coming around. But from 16, 17, 18, the traffic was a lot. And one of my friends said he thinks my grandma did something that is calling this kind of attention to me. It's a little bit too much. And we got talking, and he was like, so I was telling my dad about it. And then you know what my dad said? That just dampened everything. He said, usually what attracts, he said, it depends on how you look at it, because shit too attracts a lot of flies. It doesn't mean it's awesome. It simply means that there's something, it's a foul smell. So you have to be able to evaluate between the smell. What kind of smell are you emitting? Is it foul smell or fragrance? Two things can attract people to you. Is it that you're very cheap? So he gave us the impression, he gave me the impression at that time that sometimes when men come after you, it's because you're very cheap. So the traffic does not mean that you're hot. The traffic does not mean that you're the only one with hot legs. It simply just means that you're quite cheap and you're an easy lay. And you know, these are times where you have those conversations about, am I going to be celibate? And why should I be celibate? Am I going to go for the pill? Am I going to go for protection one way or the other? So you have people going around secondary schools, especially the senior classes. I learned there's this NGO that gave children condoms at SS2, SS3, and it became a thing of controversy because parents were not sure that was how they wanted to raise their children. And then you hear people saying that, yes, we advise abstinence, but if you cannot, you should protect yourself. And to some extent, you see, those statements are not necessarily what should drive a child to do that. Because I think, okay, let me put it this way. A friend of mine experienced rape. We were in, I think it was 100 level or 200 level. And by that, I mean, we're somewhere around 18, 19. And she experienced rape. A student, she just was charging her phone in a neighbor's room, and when she went to the room to charge, and somebody came and he raped and all that. So I remember when going to the hospital, we had to go through all those processes, and then we had to go and get prophylaxis for all those sicknesses, sexually transmitted sicknesses, HIV, AIDS, and syphilis, etc., gonorrhea, etc. And then we also had to figure out how to take the after morning pill for her so that it will not add baby to her crisis. So sometimes those informations are very valid. Not necessarily that they should push the child. So I think it shouldn't be that your child should be educated from outside. There should be what you believe, and what informs your belief should be informed to the child early in life. It should be ingrained in the child's life that if at all I want to be celibate, there should be a reason why I'm being celibate. There should not simply because my mom says that, because when it moves from instruction to conviction, then you now have a child who is actually trained in the way you should grow, and when she grows, she will not depart from it. So simply because an NGO comes and tells me that SS2, now you're beginning to know your body, and as you explore it with your body, this is what you can do. Meet this condom. This one, his name is this one, and share to them. That should not push her, because even if she collects it, she'll keep it or give somebody who needs it and walk away. There was a time that I think they came to inform us about some contraceptives in university then. I think was it 100 level, 200 level. They came and shared contraceptives to us now. We had no idea what to do with it. And I think mine stayed for a very long time in the drawer, and eventually I threw it away and all that. But guess what? Because I already had the strength of character that was already built in me. So that could not or would not have swayed me easily. So when I look back now, I see the fact that because of all of that, I have a different approach to how I would love to raise my children, my girls and my boys. I would prefer that they hear the information first from me. Yes, there's something that exists as a condom. Yes, there's something that exists as after morning pill. Yes, there's something that called contraceptive, but this is it and this is it. And in all of that, guess what? The one thing you never get to hear on the streets is the side effects of all of this. There's a side effect to contraceptive. There's a side effect to all of what you're doing and all that. For men, eventually you hear men experiencing things like low sperm count. Back then, fertility was not a problem, but now infertility is everywhere. Infertility is everywhere. So the men are even experiencing infertility. Unfortunately, the conversations are not on the table. But you see, all of those could have been corrected. Instead of just shooting everywhere, anything, just enter anything that you want to enter, you would have actually been more conscious that you also need to guard yourself, that infertility does not just exist in women, but it also exists in men. We have things like low sperm count that men have to deal with, and they have to take medications just to be able to father children. So sometimes 50% of infertility now is experienced as a result of the man experiencing low sperm count. But guess what? Who is counting? And who is really asking? most of the times. And the stereotype, African stereotype, is that if there's no children, there are no children, it is the woman's fault. It must be the woman's fault. She must have aborted all her children. She must have done all of that. And the story goes on and on and on. Or she needs deliverance. She has a spiritual husband. The extremes they are obtainable in Africa. So my point being that if your children are exposed to all this information, but this time around more guided and pointing to a moral standpoint, a balance between the spiritual and the moral standpoint, your religious beliefs and what is obtainable in society, maybe a lot of these things can be avoided. It can be avoided so the girl grows into a woman having a clear understanding of her body and how to manage her body properly and how to get herself wherever she needs to get herself without the obstruction of unwanted pregnancy, without the obstruction of having messed herself so bad that she's still trying to figure out her identity. You have ladies experiencing identity crisis at the age of 32. Why? She doesn't have a womb. She has already aborted everything by virtue of by virtue of contraceptives and these morning after pills. Yes, they're also contraceptives. She has already come down with a strong hormonal disorder that will not even permit her to even have children. And then guess what? There's no the man, she has already married and has also experienced divorce because they told him in their church or they told him in their village that she's the reason why they're not having children. So it must be spiritual. And sometimes you can just go to the hospital and figure it out, but it must be spiritual. Yes, I'm talking from my African perspective. But I'm saying that some of these things can actually be avoided if we could just arm our children, equip them. Let me not say, when I say arm them, it doesn't equip them with the necessary information needed at their level so they can make the right decision and trust that they can actually make the right decision for themselves, because whatever needs to be taught and the proper way, whatever religious bias you're coming from, you have already ingrained it in their system completely, that it has moved beyond instruction of mommy, instruction of daddy to conviction. So while I tell you about Christ, I'm taking you to the point whereby you have a conviction about this Christ that I'm talking about. You don't just have a conviction, but you've also experienced an encounter with the Christ I'm talking. So when next, it's not because I don't want to have sex because my mom said so. No, this is my belief system and this is what works for me. So this is what I'm standing for. You see, that makes a more complete woman. That's why we're talking about the total woman. A woman who is balanced in every ramification. There's a balance that is exuding itself and is showcasing itself. The total, your physical well-being, your social well-being, your spiritual well-being, and your emotional well-being. All of that put together make up the total woman. So we're saying, get in contact with yourself and trace. And guess what? Sometimes you've actually drilled because a lot of these things, some of us did not really experience them so much as children. So we're experiencing them later in life. So you suddenly wanted to explore at the age of 25 when your mates are trying to calm down and settle. So you're having, I don't know to call it midlife crisis because you know this is midlife crisis, but unfortunately for the woman, at that point, we know that we've started experiencing the weddings, the ashwebis and the preparing of weddings, and everywhere enter say, who is in your life now? When are we coming for your own? And all of that. So if need be, sometimes it wouldn't hurt to actually retrace your steps and see where you missed it at, which would also help you find yourself, find your identity, and above all, find your identity in Christ. Well, I'm not forcing it down your throat, but I'm just recommending it because I think it works. It actually worked in my case. It's my recommendation. I will always recommend it. But it wouldn't hurt to find yourself. Find yourself. The earlier, the better. And if you've missed it, guess what? There's always an opportunity for you to go back and retrace at what point you missed it, so that you will be a whole human being. A whole man, a whole woman, but above all, a total woman. You're the total package in every sense of the word. Well, like I said, we'll always love to hear from you. We'll always love to hear your own stories and your own encounters and how it worked for you and how it did not work for you and what were the pitfalls you experienced and how you came out of it, because it could help somebody. And I'll still repeat that you get in contact with us because I will really, really love to hear from you and your inputs. So you can find us at our social media platforms at the Total Woman Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be waiting to hear from you. And I remain your host, Hanmak. See you next time. Bye.